Ron Howard's story begins not with the glitz and glam of Hollywood, but with the harsh realities of a world that demanded too much from him too soon. Born on March 1, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma, he was thrust into the entertainment world at an age when most children are learning their ABCs. His parents, both working actors, often lived paycheck to paycheck, and the constant hustle of Hollywood was more of a necessity than a choice. By the time Ron could walk, he was already familiar with the cold, mechanical world of film sets, rather than the soft grass and playtime that most children experience. At just 18 months old, he was introduced to the world of call sheets and cameras instead of lullabies and bedtime stories. His childhood was overshadowed by an industry that demanded more than he could understand or process. The cost of early fame. At age 6, Ron became the beloved Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. His face became familiar to millions, but behind that cheerful persona was a boy who was far from carefree. He was required to study for 3 hours a day to meet California's child labor laws. Yet he had no classmates to bond with, no recess to look forward to, no carefree moments of childhood. His colleagues were fellow child actors, but they too were confined by the demands of their work. It was a golden cage, one that trapped him in a cycle of loneliness and isolation. Without the normal joys of childhood, Ron grew up learning adult lessons far too early. The feeling of being trapped in a character, beloved by millions but emotionally distant, was something that haunted him throughout his early years. The burden of the Opie image. As Ron Howard grew older, the weight of his role as Opie Taylor became increasingly difficult to bear. He faced a public that adored him, but behind the adoration was a sense of alienation. Children at school taunted him with the Opie nickname, twisting it into cruel rhymes that he couldn't escape. In the privacy of his own world, he longed to shed the image of the boy from Mayberry, but Hollywood kept him firmly in place. Casting directors dismissed him for being too recognizable, a sentiment that cut deeper than any public critique. Ron wanted to grow and evolve as an actor, but Hollywood's expectations seemed to keep him frozen in time. His desire to break free from Opie's shadow became a constant battle, one that he felt he could never win. The struggles of adolescent fame. By the time Ron turned 13, he was no longer just Opie Taylor, but had taken on the role of Richie Cunningham in Happy Days. However, the fame that should have been liberating felt more like a cage. As Richie, Ron found himself competing for attention, not with the rest of the cast, but with the larger-than-life presence of the Fonz, Henry Winkler's iconic character. Despite his devotion to the role, the fame quickly shifted toward the Fonzie character, leaving Ron to play second fiddle. This created a sense of doubt within him, further exacerbated by the fact that, at a young age, he already feared he had peaked in his career. The pressure to live up to the expectations set for him was overwhelming, and he began questioning his worth as an actor and as a person. Finding purpose beyond acting. During his time on Happy Days, Ron Howard discovered a deeper passion for filmmaking. As he enrolled in the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts, he found a new way to express himself behind the camera. For the first time, he saw film not just as a vehicle for stardom, but as a canvas for storytelling. It was in this space that Ron found the freedom to create, to control the narrative instead of merely being shaped by it. This shift marked the beginning of his transformation from child actor to seasoned director. For the first time, he was no longer constrained by the roles the world had cast for him. He began to imagine a future where he was the one creating the stories, not just living within them. Building an empire. In 1985, Ron Howard co-founded Imagine Entertainment with producer Brian Grazer, creating a production company that would go on to produce some of the most iconic films and television shows in modern history. From Cocoon to Backdraft, Ron continued to prove his skill as a director and producer. His reputation as a master storyteller grew with each new project. However, the relentless drive for success came at a personal cost. Ron pushed himself harder with each new film, spending long hours on set and in editing rooms. His work was his life, but it came at the expense of family time, and he often found himself disconnected from those he loved most. The price of success. By 1995, with the release of Apollo 13, Ron Howard had reached the pinnacle of his career. The film was a global success, grossing over $350 million worldwide and earned 9 Academy Award nominations. But despite his professional success, the personal cost was undeniable. As his mother, Jean, battled health issues and his brother Clint struggled with addiction, Ron found himself facing the harsh realities of life. Success could not shield him from the pain of losing loved ones. Even as he enjoyed the fruits of his labor, Ron felt the isolation that came with it. He had built a career, but in doing so, he had distanced himself from the people who mattered most. The loss of his mother. In 2000, Ron Howard's mother, Jean, passed away, and the grief he felt was beyond what fame or accolades could heal. As a child actor, he had been consumed by the demands of Hollywood, missing out on precious moments with the people who had supported him since the beginning. The loss of his mother reminded Ron of the fleeting nature of time. No amount of success could make up for the time he had lost with her. In the quiet of her hospital room, Ron reflected on the distance he had created between himself and the people who loved him before he was a star. He realized that while fame had given him much, it had also stolen something invaluable: the ability to be present for those he loved. The struggles with his brother Clint. After the loss of his mother, Ron's family struggles continued. His brother Clint, who had battled addiction for years, began to spiral further into despair. Despite his fame and success, Ron was unable to save his brother from the grip of addiction. There were moments of intervention and attempts to help, but addiction is a powerful force that cannot be conquered by will alone. Ron felt powerless as he watched his brother face his demons. The pain of almost losing Clint weighed heavily on him, and it reminded him that success and fame cannot protect us from the hard truths of life. Clint's journey would continue to challenge Ron, but it also deepened his understanding of the fragility of life. The death of Cindy Williams. In 2023, Ron received the devastating news that Cindy Williams, a close friend from his early years in Hollywood, had passed away suddenly. Cindy, known for her role in American Graffiti, had been a comforting presence during Ron's formative years in the industry. Her death hit Ron hard, as he had not had the chance to reconnect with her in recent months. Her laugh, once a source of comfort, now echoed in his memory. Losing Cindy reminded Ron of the importance of human connection and the fleeting nature of life. It was a painful reminder that no matter how much we achieve, we cannot control when or how we lose the people we care about most. A life built on persistence. Today, at 71, Ron Howard stands as a man who has weathered the storms of Hollywood, family struggles, and personal loss. With a net worth of nearly $200 million, he has built a legacy not only through his work in film, but through his commitment to his family and his charitable efforts. His wealth, while impressive, is not what defines him. What defines him is his resilience, his ability to continue standing in the face of adversity. Through the loss of his mother, the struggles with his brother, and the death of his dear friend Cindy Williams, Ron Howard has learned the true meaning of success. It's not about fame or money. It's about the relationships we build, the love we give, and the strength to keep moving forward even when the world seems determined to break us. Living in the present, Ron's life today is quieter and more grounded than it has been in the past. He spends his days with his wife Cheryl and their 4 children, finding joy in the small, everyday moments that once eluded him. His children, including his daughter Bryce Dallas Howard, have carried on his legacy in their own right, becoming successful actors and directors in their own careers. Ron has learned to appreciate the value of time spent with family and has dedicated himself to giving back through charitable donations and initiatives that support the arts and education. Through it all, he has come to understand that the greatest luxury in life is not fame, but peace. The peace of knowing you lived fully, loved deeply, and persevered through the storms of life.